Hello everybody, this is Chris. Welcome to our new video. In this video we're going to talk about how to create super soft prints with your white toner printer. We receive this question quite often from beginners. They're just starting out, maybe just finished their first white toner print, and the feel of their print is just not what they expected. The texture is kind of crunchy, almost like a paper feel. And maybe you have received a sample before that was super soft and stretchy, and now yours doesn't feel that way. Let's dive into this and start with an example. So this will be our example graphic that we're gonna use through the entire video. I brought a microphone so you can get a better understanding how it feels. You can hear this crunchy texture, almost feels like a piece of paper. In regards of size, this is larger than my hand. It definitely exceeds the 3-finger rule and it has no empty space. The root cause is quite simple. We are adding material to our shirt. This happens if you use white toner. This also happens if you use traditional HTV. If you're from the sublimation space, you probably know it from Easy Supply or something similar. And also with DTF, they all have a certain texture, a certain feel to it that you add to your garment. With HTV and with Easy Supply, we are used to print the entire image, including the black from the garment. With white toner, we can be a little bit smarter and we can knock out the shirt color. In this case, we print no black, as we don't have to weed out anything. Additionally, we have the option to use a process that's called rasterization, which improves our feel as well. As you can probably guess by now, the major contributor to super soft designs is the way you prepare your artwork or your design. The textile quality does impact the feel as well. On a thick sweatshirt, the transfer has less of an impact than on a thin t-shirt. Finishing with T-seal does help too, but not as much as preparing your artwork correctly. If you want to learn more about the different finishing methods, check out this video on our group's YouTube channel. And lastly, different transfer papers do feel differently as well. An overview can be found in this video over here. Let's start with knockout black. Here you can see a transfer where the black is knocked out. Looks a little bit odd without the black, and here is one printed with black. Let's put them on a shirt. Here's the design from the beginning of the video with the paper feel. So this is black knocked out. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see better. What we can already observe is that the colors that are left over look more vibrant because we knocked out black. We don't use the printed black. We created a lot of empty space here, a lot of lines in the middle, so there's less material applied. Let's hear how it will feel. It already feels better. The crunchy paper noise is gone. Let's compare it to the first print here with printed black. This here sounds and feels much better already. Let's write down a couple of rules for softer transfers that we are able to establish already. Rule 1. Always finish with T-seal. It's easy to do and always helps. Rule number 2. Always knock out your shirt color. It makes no sense to print black on black or red on a red shirt. And the 3-finger rule, which simply says that you have to create additional empty space if you have closed areas larger than 3 fingers after knocking out black. Let me show you how to knock out black or knock out color in iColor Pro Rip. First we click on Jobs and then we move down to Production Plugins, and there we will find Knock Me Out Color and Knock Me Out Black. Knock Me Out Color for every shirt color and Knock Me Out Black for black specifically. If we choose Knock Me Out Black, this window here pops up and we're going to change the preview mode at the bottom, and we're going to change it to show underbase, so everything is black, white and gray. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see better. You will see that some colors are shown as black, some colors are shown as white, and others are somewhere in between with different gray tones. This means that the black parts, they stay as they are, the white parts are completely knocked out, and the parts in between will be rasterized, so we'll be put in some dots in there. So what we're going to do is we take the second slider, clean black, and move it all the way to the right to 255. Our goal with this image is to only knock out the black parts and not to have any effect on the other colors. So we're going to play around with the midtones, the fourth slider, and the underbase, which is the first slider, until only the black areas are white in the preview, like the eyes, and all the other colors are completely black. Just play around a little bit, take a look at the preview, and when you're happy with it, push OK. If everything is black and white, no grays, we get the result that we can see here on the left. We just knocked out the pure black areas, all colors are untouched. If we use the gray image with the gray areas, we receive an image like this here. We get rasterization dots in the different colors. The light colors are not rasterized, the darker colors are rasterized according to their brightness. So darker colors more than lighter colors. This can be a desired effect for some images, but not this one. A short summary on Knock Me Out Black, Knock Me Out Color function. You can find it with production plugins, then jobs, Knock Me Out Color or Knock Me Out Black. It will only work on raster files, means PNGs, PSDs and so on. If you have a vector file, you can convert to raster within ProRib. And you can use Knock Me Out Black for black only or for all dark colors gradually. Here are some examples for both cases. Black only if we have clean vector files where all the colors are clearly separated and we only have one type of black. And gradual Knock Me Out Black is something we use for photographic images where we have different shades of black and dark grays, and we want to create a nice fade like the example of the camera over here, where rasterization helps us to blend in the light effect. Sometimes knocking out black alone isn't enough to create a soft transfer. Here we have to stick to the 3-finger rule, which simply means if you have an area larger than 3 fingers where there is no empty space, means no t-shirts showing through, you have to create something that's called additional empty space, which can either be rasterization or distressing. Distressing is creating a used look or like a vintage effect, which we can see here on this bloom design in the semicircle where we have built in a textile structure, which allows the garment to breathe. And another example here, which is a little bit more irregular looking, is in the text where we have scratch effects. Both are called distressing. You can do distressing in your typical design software like Photoshop, Illustrator, Affinity Designer, or you can do it within ProRib. You can find a tutorial about it on the group's YouTube channel. If you don't like the irregular look of distressing, you should check out rasterization. Rasterization is adding fine dots or fine lines to your design, which makes it much softer and significantly more durable. These dots or lines can go through the entire image evenly, or they can gradually vary in size, like in this example over here. Rasterization can be applied throughout the entire image or just a part of the design, and we can leave out texts or fine details. This video will only cover the basics of rasterization iColor ProRib, means even spread out lines throughout the entire image. It will not cover partial rasterization, which you can do in ProRib Essentials with the point and click feature, or the additional artwork preparation that you need for partial rasterization in iColor ProRib. This will be covered in future videos. This way we can reduce the complexity for beginners. There's no need to rasterize every single design, and you have to understand rasterization as a trade of vibrancy for softness. Let me show you how to use the default rasterization settings within iColor ProRib. Open the paper selection and select your paper choice with holes or with stripes. If you want to know what your default rasterization settings are, right click on the image, click on Properties, then Color Layer, and then Ink Removal, and you will see the default settings. I pressed these settings on a t-shirt for you. You can see it over here. On the top left, you'll find the settings that I just showed you. From a distance, it doesn't look too bad. Here's a coin for scale. If you zoom in, the dots become more apparent. Some of you like that look, some of you don't like that look. You may find these dots too prominent. But you can also customize your settings to really tight lines or very, very fine dots. ProRib does come with presets that make it very easy for beginners, but you can always customize these to your liking. Let me show you how this works. You don't have to use the presets, you can go straight from the paper selections, right click on the image, select properties, color layer and then ink removal as shown before. Here you can change your rasterization settings like the shape. I typically use rounds or lines. The others are for you to discover, but most will stick with lines and rounds though. You can also change your angle. You can change your hole size. You can change your frequency. Once you've entered your settings, just click OK on the bottom. But before we play with the different settings, let me just explain all the different functions. With change, you can change your round dots to lines or other settings. From a 6-foot distance, you don't see any difference, but close up, you will see them. I preferably work with lines because they're less likely to clog during marrying and they provide your garment extra stretch, like you can see in this example over here. The angle simply describes the direction the dots or lines will travel. Dots will look most natural with 22. For lines, you would like to work with 90 degrees for portraits or 0 for landscape. Next one up is the hole size, and despite its name, it actually does not directly influence the size of the holes. It describes how much of the image you trade for empty space. This might sound confusing, but here's an example. 255 means it prints 100% of the toner, so there's no rasterization dots. 220 means you trade 14% of your image for holes, so it loses a little bit of vibrancy. 190 trades already 1/4 of your image, 25%, so you lose a lot of vibrancy. I personally stick mostly to 200, which gives you a significantly boost in softness, but doesn't take away too much of the image vibrancy. Lastly, the frequency, which describes how many dots you place, respectively how tight they are together. Quite easy to see with lines. If we choose 10 frequency, we can even count them. 2.5 centimeters will be 1 inch, and there will be exactly 10 lines. If we increase the frequency, we see more lines, but the distance between them becomes smaller. Now let's get back to our example image and compare a couple of settings. Top left was the default. Let's move the coin to the top right. This image over here is very fine dots with a frequency of 40. Let's zoom in so you can actually see them. Frequency of 40, hole size 200, angle 90. Very, very fine dots, you can barely see them. The image is bright and vibrant. Let's find out how they feel. The default image is nice and soft. The right one, a little bit stiff. Not the optimal setting if you prefer soft transfers. Let's check out bottom left. Almost the same image vibrancy. Here we do have fine lines. Let me zoom in for you. The frequency is 36, still on the high end, but a little bit lower than top right. It does feel significantly softer though, and the lines additionally provided with some extra stretch. It does come back really nicely, absolutely no cracking. Last example, this one here is a negative one. We can see the image is not really vibrant, so let's zoom in. If we look closer, we can see that all the holes are filled with white adhesive. We call this that the holes are being clogged. This is the worst that can happen if you rasterize. Visually, the printed colors are now being mixed up with the white adhesive, which makes our image really dull. Also, when we touch our image, it doesn't really feel soft. It feels like we didn't rasterize at all, so our efforts were in vain. Here you can see all settings on screen. There are no universally best settings. Your personal preferences as well as your technical capabilities do play a factor here. Why technical capabilities? If we look at the last setting, our negative example, we can see that we have used the same settings as for the second example with superfine dots, but we used a different heat press that didn't allow me to use superfine dots without clogging. Just a little tip. To test your rasterization settings, you don't have to use transfer papers. You can simply buy overhead films at Amazon and test on these. Let me try to give you the best values for each setting. Let's start with shape. Shape, definitely lines. Round is popular as well, but lines are more beginner friendly and they provide extra stretch. With the angle, you want to pay attention that it's 90 or 0 for lines, everything else just 22. With the hole size, it depends a little bit how bulky the image is. For smaller images that you just want to soften up a little bit, 210. For our example over here we use 200. And if it's like a rectangular photo, complete page, I would go even to 190, maybe even 180. With the frequency, the lower numbers, like a 25, doesn't clog up that fast even with lower end heat presses, but still looks better than the default setting. 30 is a good middle ground, the holes are decently tied together, but still feels soft. 35 and up clogs very easily and is something I would recommend to only experienced users. Clogging is something that you want to avoid at all costs. Here is what it is, what it does to your image, and what the causes are. With clogging we mean these white fillings that are coming from the adhesive sheet, not from the toner, and they cause your image to look dull and feel stiff despite rasterization. Clogging can be caused by several factors. Some are the paper type. iColor 2-step standard is my recommendation for rasterization. Raster settings can be a cause. Everything larger than hole size 210 or frequency higher than 35 tends to clog up faster. Your technique can be a factor, like you letting it cool, you stop or lift it during the peeling. Too much pressure can be a cause. I typically recommend a 4 to 6 on a Geonite or a Stars Fusion. In general, you will have more success and more consistency with higher end presses opposed to low budget presses. Here's a quick demo with 2-step standard. Geonite heat press 310 degrees Fahrenheit, 155 Celsius, 2 minutes, pressure is at 6. The platen is preheated. Our example image has hole size 200, frequency 30. We cover it up with our black pressing cloth. The peeling process here in real time. Remove the black cloth. Then grab a corner, flat angle, slow and steady, controlled movement. Keep the same speed through the entire peel. Here is a super close-up at the hand. And a bit further away, nice and clean. Here exactly the same process on my Amazon heat press for like $500. Same temperature, same time. Even the same black pressing cloth. So exactly the same process. Let me speed this up for you. And although everything was the same, we still have some clogging here. So the heat press definitely plays a role with your rasterization success. Lastly, please find my personal favorite settings on the screen. If you have different favorite settings, please feel free to share them in the comments. If you want to learn more about partial rasterization or rasterization with Pro Essentials, please feel free to subscribe to this channel so you get notified. Thank you and bye bye!